Hello, everybody. My name is Tamin Gill, and the data set used for this project is Inc. Magazine's annual list of 5,000 fastest growing private companies in the United States for the year of 2014. This list is compiled by measuring each company's percentage revenue growth over a 4-year period. I got this data set from Tableau's archives. I just simply typed in data sets, and there are random ones came up, and I just happened to choose this one. And prior to visualizing data, I had to make a little bit tweaks to the data itself to clean it up a bit. And before I begin this presentation, now per Andy Kirk's presentation reference to data visualization, its myths and its truths, I try to make sure that my visualization is as simple as possible so it can be easier for the audience to understand. So now let's take a look at our story. Using the data set provided by Inc. 5000, I went ahead and tried to look into all of the analytical aspects on how the data can be further analyzed in reference to the growth of the companies, the revenue of the company, and its workers by city, state, and the respective industries they belong to. The first dashboard on the story shows us the percentage of revenue by state, which can be found by the table calculation feature using the revenue measure to get the percent total. In the percent total sheet, we can see that California and Texas are at the top for having the most revenue, at both at 14.41 and 12.66% of the total percentage of revenue, which is almost double when compared to other states. I've also created a text chart in which we can see the revenue of each state relative to its size. And again, we see that California is at the very top, followed very closely by Texas, then Illinois and New York, and so on. Towards the bottom, I've also created a circle chart just to visualize not the revenue as it did in the top, but just to visualize the growth. And here we still see that California is still number one, but Texas is a little bit shy of Virginia. And if I do hover over, we can see that Virginia's growth is 191,567, while Texas is a little bit short at 178,134. Now, moving on to the next dashboard, we see that the company demographics by city and the state. There is a map of all the states at the top, along with Alaska and Hawaii as well, which are designated by color. The darker color, once again, indicates the state where most revenue, and as the colors get lighter, the amount in revenue for each company decreases. As the color of the states gets lighter, that is. As we can see, California is darker. Then a shade lighter is Texas, and so forth. Towards the bottom right, we see the cities designated with the states that have the most revenue, and in our case, the top cities are San Francisco, located in California, and Houston, located in Texas. On the bottom left, I created a bubble chart, which is relative to the revenue for each company, and by hovering over the biggest looking circle, we can see that the Pacific Union Real Estate, which I believe is, let's see here, where are you, Pacific? Right here, we found it, that is located in California, has the most revenue. Also, if we hover over the map, I have filter actions set up so that whenever we hover over a specific state, let's say I hover over Texas, the bubble chart as well as the bar graph with the topmost cities automatically shows only the companies and cities located in and pertaining to Texas. The bar graph as well as the bubble chart also set up in filtered actions where if I hover over any city, for example, let's say New York, I hovered over New York. The bar graph, well, actually the topmost, at the very top, we could see the actual chart, the map, as well as the chart on the left. They'll automatically correspond to the cities located in New York, as well as the New York state will lighten up. And the same will happen if I hover over the bubble chart, as I showed, I believe earlier, that the map as well as the bar chart will act accordingly. Next, we see the stacked bar chart by industry, which is my third dashboard. In this chart, I chose to stack the workers, revenue, and growth by industry. It is much easier to see each of these three sectors by industry. I made sure to sort the company name by color so it could be easily seen as to which company or which industry ranked the highest in workers, revenue, and or growth, or all, if we want to see all together. In my opinion, this map is very simple and easy to read. That it sums up enormous amounts of information in a very quite exquisite visualization. Getting back to this chart itself, let's look at consumer products and services industry. When we see, especially when we're looking at, for example, this is a consumer, we see that when it comes to growth, Fuhu ranked it actually has the largest block in large color green, which see that, you know, it's obviously had the most growth, as it is represented with that big color of green that we see. Now, if we look at the revenue sector for that same industry, we see that brown color block, which seems the biggest in the column, which shows us that the company Europro had the most revenue. So this is the brown one, and we see that Europro had the most revenue at 1.2, and so on, million, billions. Similarly, if we hover over different industries with 3 different sectors to see which company ranked the highest, we can always look at that. For example, let's say here, I see that in the health industry, the company Envision RX Options ranked that they had the most revenue, but here in gray, I see that Crescendo Bioscience Health had the most growth. So this chart is a very neat representation as to what we see, and you know, just to compare all the 3 different sectors by industry, just to make things a little bit easier. Moving on to our next dashboard, which will show other demographics. We can see the general revenue by industry along with the top 10 companies who had the most revenue, and see who ranks the highest among the number of workers. I created a Grant bar chart in which we see the top 20 cities with the most revenue and the number of workers they have in comparison. Now let's hover over the health industry when we see 2 companies. Let's see, where's the health industry? Here we go. Okay, so we see the 2 companies, Prime Therapeutics and Envision RX Options, the topmost 2 in the health industry. And we see that Prime Therapeutics has well over 3,000 workers, because in the health industry, these are the 2 companies that rank the highest. And we also see that the city of Irvine within the health industry, when it comes to revenue, is supposed to be the highest in revenue, but also is the highest in the number of workers as well. Towards the bottom, if you look into the actual Grant chart. And we can always look into different industries if we're further interested in it. And the next display I have here in the dashboard, we see 2 different yet very similar maps. The map at the top is the general company count for the number of companies and their locations within the United States. The map at the bottom shows the number of workers by state. Here, if I hover over Texas on the bottom map, I see at the top the different places within the state of Texas where the total number of 100,812 amounts of workers are distributed. However, when I hover over the top map, and let's say I choose the city of Lubbock right here, Texas, and if we look at the bottom map, it will show us that the given company, any given company located in the city of Lubbock itself, employs a total of 518 employees. So that's pretty neat. And we can always do that for other cities and states as well. Let's say if we want to go ahead and do that for New Mexico and Albuquerque, we see that the city of Albuquerque, New Mexico, the company may employ 670 employees, and so on. And now coming over to our final dashboard, at the top left, we see the topmost states and cities with the most revenue, which correspond to our other dashboards that also show the 3 major states of California, Texas, and New York. Directly underneath, there's a slider that we can move accordingly to the revenue we wish to see, and it'll show us the top 3 or more cities and states given the revenue range. And let's say if I want to decrease the range from 5 billion to 7, a little bit over 5 billion to 7 billion, to let's say for about 4 billion. So we see that the state of Wisconsin, Tennessee, and Illinois have been added, but this state's still here. New York is still there, but 2 more states are added. So as we continue to change the slider up and down, however we wish to see the values, we'll see the cities and states accordingly. Now, if we look to the right, we see the growth by company bar chart, which also corresponds to the results we saw previously, the stacked bar chart, where we saw company Fuhu as having the most growth, followed by Quest Nutrition, Reliant Asset Management, and so on and so forth. Lastly, I created a bubble chart in which we are able to, towards the left that we could see, in which we're able to visualize the growth, the revenue, and the number of workers, and the years on the list of each company within the same chart. I found this particular visualization very neat because I created a parameter in which we can, from the drop down, We can choose which sector of the ones mentioned above we are wanting to see and see the image change accordingly. Right now, it's defaulted. Let's see, actually, it's defaulted workers, but let's change it to revenue. So if we change it to revenue, here, if I hover over the biggest and darkest looking circle, I see, let's see, this is the biggest and the darkest, no, this one right here, biggest and darkest looking circle. I see that Pacific Union Real Estate, located in San Francisco, California, has the most revenue. If I choose the number of workers from the drop down, our chart will change drastically. Let's see here, workers. Here we go, change drastically. And if I look at the biggest circle here, we see that the Universal Services of America, located in Santa Ana, California, has the most number of workers, over 34,000, a little bit over 34,000. So this gives us room to explore and indulge further into the information we are trying to attain and analyze. And that will be it for my presentation. Thank you very much.